Most traders will never become profitable because they don't know how to handle their losses. And today I will break down a trade, a loss that I took yesterday, Monday, the 24th of August. And in this video, we will cover first of all the technicals, why I took the trade, how to think and act once you take a loss, and what to do after you have taken a loss, what you can do so you don't just take a loss and move on. How do we utilize it to make it a lesson rather than a pure loss? What we could see heading into the session was the following. What I looked at was, first of all, last week we saw what? We saw a big expansion all throughout last week. So here's Monday, here is the low of week, which was formed on Thursday. We can see how both markets heavily displaced lower, right? To me, order flow is clearly bearish. We're clearly going lower, and markets are, until proven otherwise, just gonna continue to the downside. Let me delete all of this right there. Markets are clearly going lower for me, no doubt about it. Right now we are clearly bearish on the daily and so on. However, what I was looking at and the logic for my trade was the following. We had seen a big expansion, and we can possibly very likely see a retracement before we continue lower again. That came as an idea after I saw what? After I saw that at the opening, Monday, we open low immediately, okay? We open low and we see a weekly crack in correlation, a possible SMT on the weekly. So that to me was like, okay, as long as it stays intact, we will most likely see a retracement higher. So what we could also see heading into the session was the following. We could see that we did have London SMT. Let me delete this. We could see that we had the London SMT right here. ES had taken out the London low, whilst NQ had not. So we had a double SMT here. So heading into 9:30, what I was looking at was like, okay, as long as it stays intact, or we have some sort of internal SMT, internal on this leg compared to the week, then I anticipated to see at least a retracement higher, because I didn't really see any SMT on the highs that would say to me like, okay, we're going lower. So that was the game plan heading into the session. So if we fast forward to 9:30, right there we go. So what we could see here, and we have to drop into the 1 minute to see what I did. We saw that 9:30 opened low very aggressively, very aggressively. I want to go right there. What we saw, and this is something that I will note down, a lesson, a reminder I should say for me, that I hope you will learn from as well. But the thing is, what we see here is 9:30 opens low aggressively. We see 9:30 take out on NQ right here, the London low. We also take out previous cycle low. We see that ES has not taken out previous cycle low. And this is one of the things, one of the reminders I got, which I'll cover in a second. But let's cover why I took the trade. So we have the point of interest, in this case being London low, and I anticipate us to reject it, right? We have now a 90-minute SMT. We have the weekly SMT on the lows. What do we see happening on this low right here? At 9:33, NQ forms its low right here. 9:33. What time does ES form its low? We see ES form its low at what time? 9:35. So we do have an internal SMT right here as well. And to me, as long as we didn't reach this low on ES, I was thinking and anticipating that we would actually reverse higher. Now, what did I do here? I was in the 15-second chart. Why? Because I had to drop a lower time frame, and the entry I took was based on what ES did. So what we can see is the following. Right here we see how ES makes a low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Here, it broke the structure right there. What do we see NQ do? Well, NQ also has low, lower high, lower low, but it never breaks the high actually. So that is one thing that I will have to note down for myself, okay, and collect more data on, first of all, just a side note. But what I based the trade on was the fact that ES made CST right there. You can see how this also formed inside an imbalance on the left, boom. So right here, the moment we closed above here and here, I entered on NQ like this. I think it looked something like that. First target was the previous cycle high, and I think I had my entry slightly lower. But yeah, somewhere around this level. And this was what I was looking at. We can see that we also here closed above this CB to the left, and that was my entry. Now, basically what we will see is that will be taken out in a second here. We can also see the following. Right here, we see what? A new SMT against us. And this is what eventually set up the move lower. And we don't want to see this when we're in a trade. So this is what set up the eventually run lower. But the thing is, I'm wrong with my drawn liquidity. And what are the signs that now looking back at it, I could have understood in order not to take this trade? Because I don't think this was a great trade, and I've definitely logged it and noted some things down, and I want to share with you what those things are. The first thing is the following. If we look at what has happened before 9:30, this is important, guys. If you understand what I'm about to say and pay attention to this, and I think you will even remember times this has happened to you. What did we say that we had here? We said that we had a London SMT, a session SMT on the lows, right? Obvious. There we go. If we think logically, we know that we have the weekly SMT on the lows. We know that we have the London SMT on the low. So we have double SMT on this low. Logically speaking, right? If we're going to go higher, if markets would retrace higher, and we'd see something, maybe Asia high, weekly open, maybe even previous day high, right? If we were going to see that, wouldn't this SMT just stay intact and 9:30 would do what? Just distribute. Yes. Of course it would. Because the low and SMR should already be in. On both markets, by the way. So the fact that 9:30 opens and NQ erases all of this and reaches this low, let's see here, is immediately a sign that, okay, higher prices is most likely not on the table, because everything was already set up for it to go higher. It didn't. So most likely we are not going higher. And that is something that live now, looking back at it, I know this. And I've done this many times, so I know this rule or this common, how should I call it? Common theme or common thing. This usually happens. You will see it time and time again. The fact that it took out the SMT that should have ran higher is a big warning sign. So I had to keep that in mind and maybe not take the trade. The second thing, and this is just so tinier details, but in an ideal world, when I always look back at my best trades, what I will see is the following. I always see that NQ makes CST as well, because that is the market I'm trading, and we never did it right here. So again, guys, these are the two main things. The first one is the biggest thing, because again, this trade was not determined by this CST. This trade was determined because I had the wrong drawn liquidity, which could have been understood and prevented by understanding the logic that happened right here. The fact that we took out the SMT that should have made price go higher. So that is what made this trade not really work out. And now we come to the question, okay, what do we do when we take a loss? Because that is the definition. or that is what defines us as traders. You will take many losses, I promise you. That is the only way you can learn, only way you can improve your process. So if you don't take losses, I don't know who you are, but I hope you risk every single penny you have in your bank account. Because the thing is, what do we do when we take a loss? First of all, personally, I always step back. I take a pause and I don't want to trade more because I know how I work. I know what my weaknesses are. And after losses, I'm easier to take worse trades. So that is why I stopped myself before. So if I take a trade that ends up as a loss, I just leave the charts. I have no business in that trade or in that session anymore because I know mentally I'm not as sharp. So even though I might see a setup, mentally I'm not as sharp. And I easily go on tilt, or easier go on tilt when I've taken a loss. So that is the first thing. You need to understand what happens to you mentally after a loss. Should you even stay behind the charts? How much does it benefit you based on historical data? Because this is what you need to track and keep in mind. And the second thing is you have to log all of your trades to, after some time, start to see, okay, I've taken this amount of losses. What do they all have in common? And what does it differ from my wins? So you can see and learn to spot and improve your process. Learn to filter out trades you don't want to take. Because at the end of the day, that is what we do as traders. We learn to optimize our process all the time. And we do this with a proper process. Like we have a process on how to optimize our process. We don't just do it randomly. We need to do it in a proper way. And this is another topic, by the way. But yeah, this is how we get to become the best trader we can be. We have to take the bad trades in order to learn from them, right? So as long as you learn from it, you have taken a win. Because this loss, if you risk properly, one small loss doesn't really affect anything. Like, that should not be a problem. And then what you always need to do when you take the losses or trades in general, you need to log them. Every single detail. I need you to understand the value of logging down your trades. If you don't do it, there's literally nothing that you can look back to improve on. This is what I'm looking at, and I hope you gain some insight on how I review my losses, why I even took this trade, and what in my mind I did wrong or could improve to next time. Otherwise, guys, you will take losses, and some losses are just valid. They are just good losses. Like, you should take them because you will take more wins the same way. And if you want to trade with me live, because I live stream all of my trades during AM session, I sit live with you, go over the markets. You will find the link to my Floor 59 group that you can find in the description, and you can join me when I trade live. So see you on the next video.